Hey guys, it's Ian here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're doing a wrap-up video, and let's not dilly-dally, let's get right into it. So let's start with my watch list, what I watched this month, and that would be the last few episodes of Big Bang Theory Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3, and also I started Season 4, and this was really my comfort show for this month, and I really had a great time with it in general. I talked about it a lot in my previous check-in video, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but I do think that the beginning of Season 3 was when things start to kind of go downhill for me a little bit, because what happens in that episode is like a huge betrayal of the friendship between the guys and Sheldon, and the fact that they don't really treat it seriously, and then it becomes a non-issue. And then this kind of idea of betrayal of friendship, or actually doing something for your friends, becomes such an integral part of that season, is pretty rough for me. Like, why would Sheldon want to save Raj's, legal status? Because there's one of the episodes where Raj is about to be kicked out of Caltech, and he has to move back to India because he's here on a work visa, and Sheldon saves him by creating a job for him, right? Why would Sheldon do that if Raj destroyed his, credibility, a few episodes back? Like, it doesn't work for me. The end of Season 3 was interesting with the introduction of Amy, but I don't really think that Sheldon should have a female companion, even though I know he does, because I ultimately like Sheldon with Penny a lot more than any of the other characters. And I know that doesn't happen. That's not part of what the story has set out, right? But as a first-time viewer, sort of, I have these, thoughts and interest in some of the characters, and even if they're not going to pan out because the story is over, I still would prefer other things to happen, right? So I did kind of fall off a little bit on Big Bang Theory at Season 4. I got through 6 episodes. I haven't gone back to it, mostly because I haven't really been in need of comfort, and I've been deciding to focus on reading more this last third of the month here, so that's why I haven't gone back to it. But as soon as I have some time for it, I am going to go back to watch The Big Bang Theory, because it's a fun show. I really enjoy it, even if it has some issues with it. Broadly speaking, I find it to be more enjoyable than not, right? So, yeah, then I watched the first season of Encounters with my roommate, and this is about UFOs around the world. It was pretty interesting. I think 2 of the episodes were a little bit too kooky for my taste, but the other 2 were very real. The problem is that there was a really odd balance, or lack of balance between the scenes, because you would have this commentator character, or person, actually. They're not characters, they're like real life people, and they would be super serious and concerning. They were this guy is messed up and needs a doctor, and then the topic would be pretty baseline, kind of normal stuff for UFO conversations, right? And they would switch back to the commentator, and they'd be going off on some crazy shit. And it was really unbalanced, because it was very uncomfortable to watch the commentator, and then very interesting to watch other parts, right? The episode that focuses on an African country is probably the best one, and I think that's because it's a well-known case that actually doesn't have that much stuff happening around it, right? Not that many people talk about it. So I like it. I think it's good. Overall, the show was enjoyable. Then I watched the last episode of Ahsoka and the last episode of Wheel of Time Season 2, and they were both disappointing, and that sucks, but it is what it is. I'm kind of used to it by now with these 2 shows. With Star Wars, most likely I will be disappointed in the show that, Star Wars is putting out this time around, and I'm just kind of used to that. And with Wheel of Time, I had really high hopes, because the second season was much better, but there were still a lot of moments where it was wasted time, and the last episode, the finale, really managed to meet my expectations of disappointment, right? So, yeah, which sucks, because we know that the writers, the people involved in this, can write good characters. They just choose not to for half of the cast, and I find that to be really shitty. So, I don't know. That's just kind of what it is. Then I watched Film Red with my roommates, it's pretty ridiculous. They were not aware of what was going on half of the time, but they still had fun. Mostly we watched it because my roommate was listening to one of Uta's songs, and I was like, I have that movie, you want to watch it? And they were like, sure. And we had fun with it. It was enjoyable, and I liked it. Then I also watched the Saint Seiya movie, Knights of the Zodiac, because it came out on Netflix. It was number 4 on Netflix when I watched it, which is awesome, like very great stuff. I'm very happy that it managed to get that much recognition. But when I watched it, I'm very sad to report that I was immensely bored. Like, it does not have rewatchability. And that really sucks because we need some way of it making money. Otherwise, I don't see why the Japanese companies that, you know, put forth most of the money for this would want to make another one. Like, I don't know why Toei would want to make another Saint Seiya movie if this first one wasn't really good. I also don't know that Makenyu will want to return for Saint Seiya. There's no point if season 2 of One Piece is going on right now, and season 1 was immensely successful. That show's probably going to be Netflix's top show for a while. I don't really think that Makenyu's going to want to try his hand at Saint Seiya, especially because the Saint Seiya movie did not do that well, and it is significantly worse than the original content, right? Like, the One Piece anime, or the One Piece live action, even with all of its changes, still manages to capture the essence of One Piece. I don't know that the Knights of the Zodiac movie managed to do that. Mostly because only like 3 characters from that series were actually in there. Like, technically Kido was there. Gurad was a character that I think exists in some version, but was not in the original Knights of the Zodiac. The princess, Saori, of course, exists. And Phoenix, Ikki, right? But his name's not Ikki in the show, in the movie. And he's not really the same character. He has that kind of like, I'm angry all the time kind of vibe, but it's not the same. So I don't really see any reason why the Knights of the Zodiac movie should continue. I also don't see why anyone would want it to. And that really sucks because I was very excited about it. I actually really enjoyed the movie the first time I watched it. It's just now after a rewatch, I'm like, yeah, this is not really a good movie. And that sucks, right? So there you go. Those are my thoughts on that. So that's it for the wrap up in terms of films. Let's get into books here. So let's start with what I didn't finish reading. So that would be Edgar Rice Burroughs' The Monster Man. I actually didn't even start this, and I think it was ultimately for the best because I am still halfway through Tarzan number 4, and I want to keep like a pace where I only read one book of Edgar Rice Burroughs at a time, because I feel like with the similarities in his writing between all the books, I will get a bit confused if I read more than one at a time. I don't really enjoy reading more than one book by an author at a time anyways, and so I think that it was for the best that I didn't read this one. However, I'm kind of sad about it because thematically this was like the perfect time to read it, and I don't know, I'll probably end up waiting until next Halloween, but I'd rather, have read this as soon as possible. But overall, good stuff. I'm happy that I didn't end up reading it, but also I'm kind of sad about it. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that, even though I didn't really talk about the book. And then I didn't finish reading Murder on the Orient Express because I was actually kind of bored with it. I'm going to try to push through and at least get a third of the way through. Right now I'm like a sixth of the way through. And then decide if I want to drop it or not. So this is going to continue to be on my TBR for November, right? So but mostly I think it was very atmospheric. It felt really cool and interesting, and it does have the vibe of like a whodunit movie. But I have not connected with any of the characters. And I find it to be probably because of Agatha Christie's writing, like the way that she goes about making characters and settings interesting doesn't appeal to me. So I'm kind of sad about that. And that's basically all there is to say about this one. So that was it for the novels, actually. I didn't really read any other ones. Even though I feel like I should have. I think there was something I mentioned that I was going to read, but I don't remember what it is. But, I didn't, so whatever. Moving on to comic books, let's start with the digital stuff. So I read one digital comic book this month, which was Eerie Archive #1. I'll show you a picture of that book right now, and it covers the first 5 issues of Eerie, and it was actually a really delightful read. I really enjoyed myself throughout the whole thing. I was not expecting to, and I mostly bought it I bought the Humble Bundle for it, out of like interest in having like a theme going on with my purchases this month. And I also ended up buying Creepy as well because I thought about it and I was like, I really enjoyed Eerie, and I think that I'll enjoy Creepy as well. And it's very unlikely that I'll ever get a chance to buy all of this stuff for this cheap again. So I ended up getting it. I paid $14 for it because I had some change in my PayPal for something. I don't remember what it was, but I only ended up paying $14 for it. Because that money that I had in PayPal was not my own. Like someone gave it to me and I can't remember what for. But it was good. I liked it. So I'm very happy with those purchases. I really enjoyed Eerie Volume 1. So I will be doing a review for it sometime soon in the next couple days to finish off with all of the Halloween stuff or all of the October stuff that I read this month. But that was it for the digital. Let's get into the physical stuff here. So in terms of issues, I got Conan number 4, and these are going to be kind of out of order, I think. We have Mighty Barbarians number 6, which is great. It was also the end of the series, and it does leave it open for another one, and I really hope that Michael Marcy gets around to it, but I really want him to take a break from all his Barbarian stuff, because it's something that he's been doing for a while. He has like 3 different Barbarian series going on, and I think that he needs to relax a little bit because he might get burnt out on this kind of theme, right? So I hope that he takes a break at some point. Then we have Sacrificers number 3. This was really, really good. It had, a twist that you could have seen coming a mile away, but still managed to hit really hard. So I like that. I think that was very well done. Going to the Barbarian number 3. I already did a review for it, so there's not much to say, but it was really great. Here we have Sheena number 2. This was much better than the first one. I think it definitely increased in value in terms of storytelling, but I still have some confusion about some of the stuff that's happening. Then we have Transformers number 1. I did a review for it, but it was an awesome book. I really enjoyed it. I think that the artwork is definitely where it excels, but the writing is also quite good, and it's both done by Daniel Warren Johnson. However, his human characters are not my favorite, but that's kind of a common thing. I just don't like the way that he does it, but I really enjoy everything else about it, so it's good. And we have Blue Beetle number 2. I really enjoyed this one. I do have a review for this as well, so feel free to check that out. But overall, it was good. It deals with Ted Ford kind of like being on his deathbed and not really sure if he's going to recover or not. Then we have Hexagon Bridge number 2. This continues to be really enjoyable. The artwork is fantastic, but I really hate the size of this because it clearly looks to be an oversized book that got shrunken down in order to fit in this sizing, and I don't like that because it really deserves that larger screen size, that larger paper size, to make that artwork look really, really great, right? So it kind of sucks. Queen of Swords number 3, this is the end of this story, and I'm a little bit disappointed about it. It was a little bit confusing in terms of how it went through the story, and I don't like that. I think that is something that happened quite a few times this month with Conan number 4, with Queen of Swords number 3. I think it also happened with Mighty Barbarians, but it wasn't that big of an issue there. And overall, the thing is that, like, you can't fumble the ending because that's one of the things that I'm going to remember most. And it seems to be something that a lot of authors end up, dealing with. And I don't understand why, because that's like, I feel like that should be the easier part, right? But I don't know. I guess it's not. Then you have Saint Seiya number 1. This is the Time Odyssey. And this one actually corroborates my idea about Hexagon Bridge because this is a European comic that was sized down. And the margins for this are the same as in Hexagon Bridge. So, in Hexagon Bridge. So I really do think that it's clear that Hexagon Bridge was a bigger book, and it's clear that this was a bigger book too. And I really am, upset or dissatisfied with the fact that that is a thing, that this was not printed correctly. However, I don't mind too much. I do want to say though that the size of the letters in this are very, very small. I think that there was a lot of space left in the bubbles. They could have made the writing a little bit bigger, and it would have been much better. However, I do want to get a second copy of this because there's a really nice 2-page spread at the back to kind of add value to the story or to the book. That is really, really good. It's about Seiya, and it's a really beautiful picture, and I want to have it up as a poster, and I don't want to sacrifice this issue to do it, so I'm going to get a second one at some point. Then we have Rogue Sun number 16. This was good. I don't really have too much to say about it at this point right now. There's a lot of stuff happening with no resolution yet, so I don't have too much to say about it. Then we have Great Arrow number 5. I like this. I really enjoy the return to Phil Hester's artwork. I think is what they're going for. It looks really, really great. Although I have no connection with it, I do enjoy it. I think I have a book that was drawn by him, but I haven't read it yet. So yeah, Wonder Woman #2 continues to be great. However, it's $5 for 40 pages. I think that is kind of standard to be like known as like a good amount of pages. However, I really don't care about the second stories that are happening in this, and I think that they're unnecessary. So I really wish that they would make like different options available, where it's like, okay, do you want Wonder Woman where it's only Wonder Woman, or do you want Wonder Woman where it's like Wonder Woman plus the backup issues? And I know that that's unrealistic, but I really wish that was an option, because I would buy the cheaper version, since I don't really care about the back issue, the back stories, right? The backup stories. Red Sonja #4, it is making me kind of consider the fact that maybe I don't need to continue reading this, but it's not been a feeling that I feel that strongly yet, but it's something I am considering. And Justice League Godzilla vs. Kong, it was kind of a slow start. I really didn't like the go back kind of like storytelling method that they had, where they give you like the really good part at the very beginning, so you can see it in the previews, and then they build up the rest of the issue to get to that point. And I find it to be not lazy, but rather boring to read, because like you already gave me the good part. I don't need to read the rest of the issue anymore. Like the context doesn't add any value to this, because it's ultimately just a way to get to Godzilla, right? And I already know that Godzilla got there, so I don't really need to know why, right? But maybe that's a very like interesting take, because it's one that I don't think I would have normally, but in this case I did, and I'm not really sure why. So there you go. Those are my single issues for the month. And then continuing on to collected editions, we have Mask Guard, Fall of 1152. This was great. I really enjoyed the artwork here. However, I do find that the middle chapters in the story were a little bit confusing, mostly because I wasn't sure what was going on in terms of like which characters was which. And I think that's because two characters managed to have the same or almost the same, color fur coat, and that made it a little bit confusing, especially because they were both like grizzled old fighters, and so it was kind of difficult to tell what was going on. But I liked it. I thought it was really good. I love this like Arthurian mice kind of idea that it permeates some stories, right? So I really like it. I think it's great, and I love the artwork. So that's it for Mouse Guard. I have a review for it, so you guys can read that there if you want. We have Mirka Andolfo's Mercy. This was great. This is a eldritch horror vampire story set in like a historical setting, and it's really, really good. The artwork is phenomenal. This is probably one of Mirka Andolfo's best works, and I've only read like 4 or 5 of them, so it's probably not necessarily the best, but this is one of the better creator-owned ones that I've read. I think I've only read 3, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's Sweet Paprika, then this, then Unnatural, kind of like very low down in the totem pole, and then ultimately Red Sonja, her Red Sonja story. I can't remember what it's called. I call it the Wolf and Cub story. That's kind of like the very bottom of the pile, because it didn't really lead anywhere, but this is definitely at the top, and it's really, really good. I recommend it. It's a great Halloween read, and in general, it's just a great read overall, and it has some really great twists and turns, and I did a review for it, so you guys can check that out if you're interested, but I recommend it. If you don't want to watch the review, if you don't want any spoilers, just go ahead and buy this in whatever capability you can, and get it, because it's good. It's wonderful. It's really, really great. Then we have Unnatural. This was one of the things I got for my birthday this year, if I remember correctly. And I really was excited about this. I thought that would be really cool because it's kind of this like, it's like Beastars or Animal Farm, but it had like this like eroticism that Mirka Andolfo brings from her like European kind of like comic book, vibe. And the extra material definitely conveys that, but the story itself was not what I was expecting. And it's not necessarily because I was expecting something more like leaning into the eroticism thing that Mirka Andolfo does. It was more like, I feel the story happened too quickly, and the setting of the initial story doesn't really fit with the plot line that well. Like, it's very mystical. It almost has like an urban fantasy feel to it, but the urban fantasy aesthetic, which is like a seedy underworld hidden in the city, that adds this magical element, didn't really feel correctly integrated into the standard like normal city life that the characters initially start in, right? And so it doesn't work correctly, because it also has this kind of like element of like we have to travel to the hidden city, that is kind of more of a pulp thing, and it doesn't really fit with the urban fantasy vibe. It also doesn't fit with the like sociological, psychological thriller issue that, you know, the initial story feels like. So overall, there was a bit of confusion and kind of like lack of cohesion when I was reading this that I feel could have been fixed, but is not possible to fix anymore since the story is already published. And it's very unlikely that Mirka Andolfo's going to do like a natural re-edit or something. However, it's possible that she fixes these issues by making a story a little bit different in her sequel series called Blue Blood, which someone told me, Miles Trombley actually, told me recently was on hiatus. I'm not really sure, you know, if that's true or not, but he said it. He's a loyal commenter on the channel, so I'm guessing it's true. And maybe she fixes those issues in that story, but I really highly doubt that. And so it ends up being kind of like a middling story, one that I don't hate, but I don't love, and I don't think I'll reread it anytime soon, but I will keep because I love this edition. I think it's great. However, it is something that I'll probably have to wait a long time before I bother revisiting because I'm not sure that I would enjoy doing so, right? So there you go. That's Unnatural. Those are my thoughts on there. It's also a birthday gift, so I'm probably not going to get rid of it for any reason, right? So it has like emotional value attached to it. So yeah, that's it for that. Let me take a short break and I'll come back and do the manga. So I'll see you guys in a moment, right? Okay, I'm back. So let's start with the manga here, and actually start with the light novel that I read this month. So we have Her Majesty's Swarm #1. This is a J Novel title club, J Novel club title. Sorry, I mixed up my words there. And it's quite good, actually. I really enjoy it. I love the size of these novels. However, there's a few things that I want to mention with this one. First of all, there's no art here. There's a map, which is nice. It's something that we don't get too often. But it doesn't have artwork. And after reading this, I kind of understand why. This is definitely a series of books, or a light novel series that is probably not going to appeal to very massive audiences. And so kind of giving that extra treatment of getting an artwork and kind of having to pay an artist to make these great renditions of stuff in the book doesn't make too much sense. So I understand that. However, as someone that reads light novels for two reasons. One, that they're the equivalent of YA fantasy that in the US is really geared towards women, where light novels are more or less geared to everyone, but most of them are published for, you know, the male audience in mind. So I read them in one sense because of that. And on the other hand, I read them because I love the addition of the artwork. I think it's something that American books certainly lack most often, although some of them do have it sometimes. You know, Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive has images in it. A lot of the Conan books that I've been reading, the Robert E. Howard stuff, has illustrations in it. Some of the Edgar Rice Burroughs books I have also have illustrations in them, but those are old books, right? Most of them, actually. And it's something that modern books don't really take into account. And it's something I really like. So those are kind of the two reasons why I read light novels, and having one of those reasons missing makes this a light novel that I was less excited to pick up than I was initially when I bought it, right? But I actually read it and I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. However, it does have this kind of like it's concerning because you are following an evil character, or like not necessarily an evil character as in like they are inherently evil, but rather they become evil through their actions, and then they double down on them, and then the fact that they have this kind of like biological imperative due to the fact that they are now a monster makes it so that you are following a villain, a bad guy, like someone that is ultimately doing what they want and have no regard for who dies in the process, right? And this is very clearly demonstrated to you, and it is sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't bother me at the end of the day. Like, I still enjoyed myself reading this, but I definitely had moments where like the initial reaction was like, oh God, that's horrible. And then I kept reading, right? And I couldn't look away. Like I read this all in one go and it was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. But it definitely has elements to it that are very rough. And I don't think that most people would like that. So, you know, your mileage may vary with this, but overall, I thought it was great. It's kind of like a very adult version of I'm a Spider, So What? Or maybe like Overlord, actually. And it's quite good. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Her Majesty's Swarm. I did a review for it, so check that out if you're interested. But if you're not, here's my 2-minute review, right? So yeah, moving on. I read some parts of this assorted collection of issues or volumes of Chain Soldier. So I read the last chapter and a half, or 2 chapters of Chain Soldier number 3. I love this cover. And I read all of Chain Soldier number 4, which is the first time I read this. And then about 2/3 of Chain Soldier number 5. And that collects arcs 3, 4, and 5, which are Tenka's Desire, Squad 7's Training, and the Hidden Village Part 1. Like the first half of Hidden Village arc, since I need the rest of the arc in Volume 6, right? So I will do reviews for those 3 arcs that I mentioned in the next coming days. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I love this. Although there was kind of a shift here after Volume 3, where we get a lot more ridiculous, kind of like stupid, funny gag moments with the reaction of characters in Volume 4 going into Volume 5. And I really like that change. I think it adds a lot of character to like the characters. That's kind of redundant, but it adds a lot of like fun to the interactions of the characters beyond all of the risque, etchy stuff that we usually see from them, right? So I think it was a great change and I really liked it. So I'll do reviews for that soon. I read number 10 of Beauty and the Feast. I really enjoyed this one. I think there was an issue with one of the chapters here. I can't remember which one it was. But I don't know. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was good. And I have a lot of emotions attached to this. I really love this story. And I'm kind of happy that I'm finally going to finish reading it. Because like I want that resolution. But also it's like bittersweet because, I really wish that there was more to this. That I could continue to read these beautiful interactions between Shuko and Yamato, right? But it is what it is. That's just kind of how it goes. And I will always have the ability to read the whole series again, right? So I have one more volume left of this. It comes out in November, and I can't wait to get it, right? So there you go. Those are my thoughts on this. Then we have Volume 10 of My Dress Up Darling. And this was great. I really loved it. There's some elements here of like interpersonal tension that are brought up. And there's also a lot of movement in terms of like the romance between Mari and Gojo. And I think that those moments were really, really good. They were also kind of blown out of proportion by the characters, but it works really well for who they are, right? I just saw a Twitter post or an X post recently by Brandon Varnell, I think, where he explains why this series has a fan service that it does and why it's like from high schoolers, right? And I thought it was really great because something that the anime community does very often, the anime manga community, is vilify people that read these like high school series. Even though in the US, where most of the people that I interact with are from, we watch a bunch of like horny teenager shows all the time. Like the whole CW, all of its stuff is literally people in high school fucking and wanting like weird situations with like non-human characters. Like most of that is stuff like that, right? Euphoria is about high schoolers. Glee is about high schoolers, and they constantly fucking do crazy shit in there, right? And no one bats an eye. But as soon as it's a manga, people get upset. And I really find that stuff to be really hypocritical. And it's not something I really kind of care too much about because ultimately I don't think it's an important hill to die on. But it was something that I was thinking about today, and then I saw that tweet that perfectly like summarizes and explains a lot of the decisions behind this story and why the story is that way it is. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, people are just shitty and don't want to like admit that there is value in what this kind of portrays, right? So I don't know, it's really interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment. It's not something I really care too much about deeply. Like if you're gonna judge me for what I read, I don't really have a problem with that because I'm gonna judge you for judging me, right? Like so I don't really mind. But it does get annoying to constantly see it online, right? So, yeah, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought about that. If you guys saw that tweet, let me know what you thought about that tweet. And also, talk about what I said. Everyone loves Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones has, like, characters, getting raped that are, like, 10 years old in the story. And no one bats an eye because they think Khaleesi's hot, even though she's, like, supposed to be 10 in the story, right? So, I don't know. It is what it is, but it happens, right? So we have volume 23 of Eden Zero. It's awesome. I love this. It really got me back into it in zero, because for the last couple of volumes, I've been kind of like low energy about it. I have not really been super invested, and this one brought me right back. It brought back a situation that I think was introduced in volumes 1 or 2, with these astronauts finding stuff in like a dead planet, and it brings it back, and it like opens up so many interesting possibilities about the story, and I love it. It's so good. I really enjoyed this volume a lot. We have Record of Ragnarok number 7. I'm so happy that this is over. I really don't like the Jack the Ripper fight. I don't know why everyone thinks it's the greatest thing ever. I find earlier fights to be much better. The Zeus versus Adam fight is probably the best one. And I really like the Shiva versus Raiden Taimamon a lot. And I really find this one to be kind of boring, even though everyone seems to think it's the best thing ever. And I'm very happy it's over because it's one that I don't like, right? So I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm really excited about the stuff that's coming up. Then we have Dinosaur Sanctuary number 3. I love this story so much. And we actually deviate from dinosaurs a little bit, and we talk about marine life from the time of the dinosaurs in this. And it was really great. I also love this character a lot. I really enjoy his style and his vibe. It's wonderful. Then you have Saora in the House of Monsters, in the Monster House. And this is wonderful. I love this story so much. It does have Iyashike vibes, which is like healing manga is the best way I can call it. It's wonderful. It's about this girl who used to be a soldier, who actually didn't actually get to fight in any battles. She just has all of the hate for monsters instilled in her. And when she's about to go off to the front lines, the war is over, and so now she's left without purpose. And so she goes off to figure out what the hell she's going to do with her life. Comes across these cute little dwarf guys that are building houses for monsters. And she kind of gets herself a found family, and it's wonderful. I love it. I think it's a great story. I love the artwork, and I think that it's wonderful. But I do think that there is a through line that needs to develop before the kind of premise gets stale. Because, like, yes, I will continue to love reading this, but eventually there will be a time where I'm kind of bored of the idea of, like, okay, we went to see a monster and we built a house for it. Like, there has to be a bigger through line here. There has to be something that moves a plot along, or actually develops a plot, so that we can have that, because otherwise it's going to be a kind of boring series, right? So I hope that happens at some point, but if it doesn't, it's fine. As long as the series isn't too long, I think it'll be fine, right? So yeah, and then we have The Mandalorian, Volume 1. This is a manga adaptation of The Mandalorian, and there really isn't too much value here in the sense that there's nothing new, except maybe 1 or 2 scenes that change. And some of the artwork is good, but overall, if you're, a fan of The Mandalorian and you want something new, this is not the reason to buy this. However, if you're a fan of Mandalorian and you like manga and you want to experience The Mandalorian as a manga, this is a perfect thing for you. But that is a very rare thing. I don't think that there is a point to that. I bought this mostly because I love The Mandalorian and I wanted some merch from it that was book related, right? And I didn't want to buy the art books because I'm not really all that interested in them, so I bought this instead, and I thought it was good. But like I said, it doesn't have any added value. Okay, and finally, I want to talk about the Darwin incident. And this was a good story. I liked it. However, I had issues with the lettering, and I'm not really sure why. I can't really describe it to you, but I just feel like the lettering was off and it made the story less interesting. However, the translation and all the other stuff was good. Like, it didn't feel awkward to read. It just kind of felt weird to look at it sometimes. And I want to talk about this, not necessarily because of the book, because I've already mentioned it. I have a review for it, but because of what the translator did here. So the translator here is Kat Anderson, who was actually very nice. She, I'll say they, because I don't know if, what their preferences are. So I'll say they, but they sent me, a coffee donation. I don't know what the right term is, but they were nice enough to support me. And it's really wonderful because it's something that I don't expect. I have all of these things, I have a coffee, and I think I have a PayPal as well, and I have a wish list and stuff, because I know that sometimes people like to give away things to creators they like. But I don't necessarily have it to make money off of stuff. Like, I don't really care. Like, ultimately, this is a hobby. This is for fun. And if I can make money off of it, that's great. But I don't really desire to do so, out of like a desire to work as a YouTuber, right? So I have those things available. No one really ever gives me anything. I don't really expect anyone to. But Kat Anderson saw my review and wanted to give me some money. So she sent me a donation, she sent me a nice message, and I was really ecstatic. It was really wonderful. It was a very great memory as a YouTuber to have like someone from the industry that you kind of attach yourself to, recognize you, provide you a donation, and then send you a nice message. And I really love that. I thought it was a wonderful thing for her to do, or for them to do. And I really appreciate it. And I think it was great. She apologized for the lettering, although it's not really her fault. And they told me that it was their first manga that was translated by them. And so they wanted to see it out in the world, see what people thought about it. And so that's why she did what she did. And I just appreciate it a lot. I think I really want to highlight this because it's a really cool memory. It's like a cool core memory of a YouTuber to be like, oh, the first time I hit 100 subscribers, the first time I got a like goal, or I reached a certain amount of likes, the first time someone gives me money, as in like someone thinks that my stuff is of value enough to support me. And I think it's a really cool memory to attach to a book, and to attach to, something that I'm doing for fun. It's really great. I really appreciate that a lot. I think it was wonderful. And I really do thank Kat Anderson for this. I really appreciate that. And it makes, my feelings for this book change a little bit. And it makes it kind of like a cool thing to have in my collection, because now that I think about this, I think about, this other memory that attached to my career as a YouTuber, right? And I think that's really awesome. So thank you very much, Kat Anderson. Thank you very much, everyone that watches the channel and watches the videos. And that's it for the wrap up this month. I hope you guys enjoyed, and sorry for the weird kind of like all over the place tangent I had here at the end. But thank you guys very much for watching. I will have a new video out tomorrow, which will be my TBR video, and I will have many more videos to come. So thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.